Good morning and welcome to the new edition of Dr. Lamba's Awakening Call. Now that Joe Biden is likely to be sworn in as the next president, it's time to test his policies. What are going to be the Biden's policy, especially towards the hotspots? It's very easy to go along with Europe, especially now since their ideas gel. Why? President Trump has been very assertive and promoting America. Joe Biden might not be that assertive. And if the history is any guide, Obama Joe Biden team had been, as a matter of fact, quite subservient and was playing the second fiddle to Merkel, Macron, and others. But then I'm more concerned with how Joe Biden's policies are going to be put in practice vis-a-vis Middle East and South Asia. Just yesterday, United States imposed sanctions on Turkey on regarding the acquiring of S-400 air defense system. Turkey is getting them, and Turkey had assured that they will not be used against NATO. These S-400 ground-to-air missile defense poses no threat to anybody in Europe or to America. And Turkey and USA both are members of NATO. But then Washington had long been threatening sanctions to Turkey and had removed the country from an F-35 jet program last year. Now the same situation is likely to happen as far as India is concerned. With India set to get the consignment of S-400 air defense early next year, India has to watch Washington's move very closely. There's no denying the fact that Trump administration has given a waiver to India to buy them. But that exceptional clause might not be recognized by Biden team. They do not have any love for India, especially they have been promoting anti-CAA and pro-revival 370 article. So considering that, it's quite possible that the waiver issued by the President Trump might be consigned to the dustbin and India might be put on the same level where Turkey is. And what's more important is what is going to be US policy regarding Kashmir as he prepares to take charge of America on January 20th next month. Pakistan hopes to reset bilateral relations with USA and draw Washington back into dispute with India. It has been a major preoccupation for Pakistan to mobilize America on Kashmir. It has become an obsession now after India altered the constitutional status of Jammu and Kashmir last year. If we look at the history of the last 3 decades, we find that Pakistan's Kashmir strategy has been to trigger violence in the valley and intensify the military confrontation as a line of control. Now, the same thing is being done by China on LAC. So, LOC and LAC face the same situation, and China and Pakistan are hand in glove. Would Biden Sport Pakistan. Now, one redeeming feature has been that just yesterday, US Congress, Democrats and Republicans combined, passed a resolution condemning China's aggression against India at LAC. But would that resolution be a constraint on President Biden and Kamala Harris and their team, which has inclination to be anti-India? Let's not forget that one of the major caucus members, Pramila Jacker, when she wanted to be a part of the delegation to meet our foreign minister, Jaishankar, Jaishankar refused to meet them. So now they might have their pound of flesh. The script that USA should come in to defuse the situation, the crisis, has always been, as I said earlier, the desire of Pakistan. And the degree of American intervention has varied from crisis to crisis. At one time, Clinton wants Pakistan to hands off. At another time, Nixon openly supported Pakistan and sent the seventh nuclear fleet to threaten India. But India has learned to adapt. In the past, India was very hesitant to escalate hostilities because of the nuclear factor and also of the fear of the intervention by the world powers as well as UN. But the present government headed by Modi doesn't fear to escalate. As a matter of fact, they would be happy to escalate because that would enable them that would enable them to rouse the public sympathy and divert the attention from the prevailing domestic issues to Kashmir issue. The government has recognized and realized that the threat of escalation cuts both ways. And it is possible to turn the nuclear dimension and external intervention to India's advantage. So, this is something which Biden has to be careful about. What India has been since 1947 is no longer the India which is there today. There is a marked watershed in the attitudes, in the approaches. Consider, for example, the recent claim of a former speaker of the Pakistan Assembly. And this gentleman, who is a former speaker of the Pakistan National Assembly, asserted that the army chief, General Bajwa, was quivering. He was sweating because of the fear of Indian escalation further after the surgical strike. He was afraid that Modi would put in practice his threat of raining destruction on Pakistan if Islamabad did not immediately release Wing Commander Abhinandan. And then, on the other one side was Modi's impeccable, clear direction that national honor shall not be compromised. On the other side, Trump had picked up a phone and called the Prime Minister Imran Khan and told him that holding Abhinandan would be a disaster for Pakistan. So this was a clear signal that USA would not interfere on the side of Pakistan. And this added to the already clear intention of Trump that Pakistan is a house of terrorists and cannot be trusted. So, given the region's temptation for theatrical, this claim can be discounted, but then there's a truth in that. There was a clear worldwide sympathy with India because it was Pakistan trained, directed, promoted terrorists who had killed 40 soldiers of CRPF. So Delhi is more willing than before to raise the stakes in confronting Pakistan terror. It has also benefited from shift in the relative balance of power. That you cannot deny that today they are not equal, Pakistan and India. India's economy is today $2.7 trillion. It is 10 times more than that of Pakistan. Can Biden afford to ignore this economy, especially when there is economic slump? And it might be more pronounced after January 20th. The corporate sector in US is afraid of higher taxation because there will be a reversal of Trump's policies of giving the tax relief to the industry. So, as the US India partnership becomes more comprehensive and global, Pakistan's ability to get Washington to act against India would not be there. But that doesn't mean that Pakistan has no leverage at all in Washington, or it would give up its old Kashmir strategy. Pakistan, let's not ignore the fact, sits at a critical confluence with the continent. Central Asia and the Gulf is one of the most focally important, physically important countries, having border with the 7 countries, a conduit to the Middle East, to Iran, to Uzbekistan, Azerbaijan, Turkestan, Afghanistan, and so on. It can destabilize any government in Kabul and foment religious extremism around the world. It has already been doing it. All the terror attacks have ultimately been linked to the Pakistan or Pakistanis. So Biden would try to placate them as well. So there are two things combining. One is a necessity to placate Pakistan, and the other is inbuilt antipathy, inbuilt anger against India, especially since India was with Trump. Remember that Houston Valley when Modi had declared Ab ki bar Trump Sarkar, this time Trump would win. And let me tell you, Democrats are like camels. They don't forget an injury or an perceived injury. So the point is, how might it play out in Biden's America? Biden is quite familiar with the history of US Pakistan relations. And as a long term senator and vice president, he has been engaged with the Pakistan related issues for many years. Let's not forget that Pakistan had honored Biden in 2008 with the second highest civilian honor, Hilal-e Pakistan. So would he be ungrateful for that honor? Forget that Pakistan not honored him? I don't think so. Again, let's not forget that Biden was the chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, which was always supporting Pakistan when he was the chair. Always. So while its relative weight in the US has declined vis-a-vis India, that nobody can deny. USA doesn't have that hold on India, but it never had. If in 1971 Mrs. Gandhi could tell Nixon, go to hell, clear terms, India would not be bothered, but then it is declined still further. And let's not again forget one thing, that Pakistan has long standing friends in Washington. and it has an expanding diaspora. Some of that was seen in the successful mobilization of political support in favor of Imran Khan when he visited USA last year. And then even Trump was eager to enlist Pakistan help in getting the Taliban to come to the table and discuss. And Pakistan did facilitate US talks with Taliban. There is no settlement, yes. There hasn't been no major reward to Islamabad from Washington. But that could change. Biden has still now not said anything about US Afghan policy. And that is something which worries. Would he continue with the same policy of Trump, or would he change it? If he changes it, then he has to depend on Pakistan, even if it means annoying India. I don't think Biden will ramp up the war in Afghanistan. And if you remember, Pakistan's leverage in Washington dramatically increased after 9/11 attacks. And it was maximum in 2010s when Barack Obama's surge in Afghanistan was 140,000 troops. Today there are 4,500 troops. 100,000 troops have been withdrawn by this time by Trump. So USA is not that dependent on Pakistan. But then the personal likes and dislikes, you can't ignore them. And then you can't deny that Kashmir is the world's most dangerous nuclear flashpoint. Kashmir has always been on the US agenda. It had much intensity in Clinton's first term and the first year of Obama. But then Indian political and diplomatic efforts did not allow the machinations of Clinton and Obama to succeed. Democrats have traditionally been against India. Let's not forget that. So Biden is unlikely to have much band left for Kashmir as he copes with the range of the domestic and foreign policy challenges. The likely civil rights and the recent decision of the some states to form a group to secede from USA are going to be major headaches. And if you go to the website, the transition plans of Biden do not show anything about Kashmir. Their priorities are COVID, number one, racial inequality, number two, economic security of US, number three, and climate change, number four. So Kashmir, India, Pakistan do not figure there. But Pakistan is not giving up. In his tweet congratulating Biden a couple of weeks back, Imran Khan had offered to work with the new government on peace in Afghanistan. And Pakistan is successful in targeting liberal American media and the spokesman who are more critical of Indian democracy. They are happy with Pakistan army rule. But even the sponsored protests are deemed to be an expression of democracy. And the fact that India has not used any repressive measure seems to elude them. Biden's rival for the Democratic nomination, Senator Bernie Sanders, has very clearly told, and when he spoke to the annual convention of Islamic Society of North America, ISNA, that he was deeply concerned about the situation in Kashmir. And as had Pramila Jackal and Biden, they had talked about the same issue. Then they had criticized CA. So some of it would be a part of Biden's retail politics. But The Democrats' election platform has said nothing on these issues except the bald sentence one on investing in strategic partnership with India. No, this is important that they talk of the strategic partnership with India, not with Pakistan. Yet, Pakistan is trying to divert Biden administration on human rights and democracy, which can be converted into attention towards Kashmir. But Modi has made clear that India has no time for the old international debate. He has very effectively sought to change the terms of political discourse, both at home and international level. And the Trump administration preferred to take it be issue behind closed doors rather than in public. It offered support to India in preventing China for racking up an UNO, if you remember that. But then, who knows? Pakistan might provoke a fresh military crisis in Kashmir. That might come in very handy for Biden to intervene, though the intervention would be absolutely brainless and stupid. But you never can tell. Nevertheless, the next couple of months will be very important to show us how Biden wants to proceed in this area. Thank you.